Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, small yellow teddy bears, wherever they may be. Have you seen Ted? Ted has not been seen at the camouflage training. You can't get the help. Anyway, the war is over. According to Dr. Brad Stansfield, a fellow New Zealander who's an MD and as such thinks he knows everything about everything, including research, science, and all of that. It seems like maybe not. I've dealt with Brad before. This is not the first time, and it won't be the last. I'll probably have to deal with Brad again. Anyways, the cholesterol war is over, and here is who won, according to Brad Stansfield. Let's hear it, Brad.
In 2006, researchers in Dallas found a woman who broke everything that we thought we knew about cholesterol.
Right. Well, there's your first clue, isn't it? You thought you knew everything about cholesterol before this woman presented. She presented in a way that was unexpected. Seems like you didn't know everything about cholesterol. And you're about to prove absolutely without any question, Brad, that you don't know everything about cholesterol by the very way you communicate about it. But let's hear it.
She was 32 years old, a healthy aerobics instructor, normal liver, normal kidneys, no health problems.
Righto.
But then when they tested her blood, her LDL cholesterol came back at 14.
Right, so that's very, very low indeed, isn't it? Very low.
Not 104.
And by the way, LDL cholesterol, Bradley, does not exist. It's exceptionally lazy to describe this thing you're talking about, LDL cholesterol. There is no such thing. LDL is not cholesterol. Cholesterol is not LDL. So either you're talking about the particle number of the LDL lipoprotein carrier of lipids, or you're talking about that portion of LDL which is estimated to have been carried by LDL, that cholesterol being identical molecularly to all the other cholesterol carried by every other lipoprotein. Nuance, Bradley. I think you're going to mention nuance at some point. Perhaps you should tidy up your verbiage there. So to be clear, LDL cholesterol does not exist. Okay, so it can't possibly be a problem, can it? Cholesterol at large might be a problem. It isn't. By the way, we'll get to that. LDL might be a problem at large. It isn't. We'll get to that too. Anyway, Brad, make some progress.
14. To put that into perspective, the average LDL cholesterol in a healthy adult is around 100 to 130 milligrams
Excellent. So why are they telling us we should get it below 70 then? No? Okay.
per deciliter. And doctors generally start to get a bit concerned if the levels go above 160. Below 70 is considered excellent for...
By whom? On the basis of what? Brad's going to attempt to make some explanation of that ridiculous position statement during this video, I'm sure. We'll get to that when he gets to it. Just flag that one for in a few minutes' time. No, Bradley, there's nothing behind that either.
high-risk patients.
No, risk. There are no studies extant anywhere on this planet that can inform any given person on their risk of heart disease as that relates to any aspect of lipids, or the diet, or medications, or anything else. Not one anywhere. Sorry about that.
But this woman was at 14.
Yes, you said that.
How was that possible?
Well, because she had a PSK9 SNP, which was being discovered at the first time when this woman was being looked at. Hurrah! Another opportunity to make some money out of people by selling them drugs they don't need. Good.
Well, Helen Hobbs wanted to find out, and the irony is she hadn't planned on studying cholesterol. When her mentor at UT Southwestern suggested that she joined a lipid research lab, her reaction was immediate. Lipoproteins, oh no, so boring, and she later admitted.
Nearly as boring as Brad Stansfield, perhaps. No, I'm being ridiculous now. There's nobody who's more boring than Brad.
That just tells you how little I understood about science. So
yes, you do. Brad understands absolutely nothing about science. He's going to prove that absolutely soon.
She and Jonathan Cohen had been running a massive project called the Dallas Heart Study, collecting DNA from thousands of residents, linking it to their medical records to see what patterns emerged. Now, in some people, they noticed astonishingly low LDL cholesterol levels.
Right, astonishingly. That's a very scientific term, isn't it, Brad?
And when they checked the DNA, they found mutations in a gene called PCSK9.
There you go, see?
But these mutations, they weren't making the gene overactive, they were shutting it down.
Right, so that's what most SNPs do, in fact. They tend to shut down the appropriate effects of any given gene.
And the people who carried these mutations, they weren't getting sick, they were thriving. They had dramatically lower rates of heart disease.
Right. So why do you think that is, Brad? It certainly isn't to do with the circulating levels of LDL or cholesterol or any of the other lipoproteins in the blood. The thing with genes is they have pleiotropic effects. That's something you should look up, Brad.
about an 88% reduction in coronary heart disease risk. So
no, not see again, still, no, there are still no studies extant anywhere on this planet that can inform any given living human being of their risk of heart disease or anything else as that relates to diet, lipids, in the blood or elsewhere, medications of any kind. No studies at all inform on risk, not one still. Risk is a cause and effect statement necessarily. Sorry about that, not sorry.
That aerobics instructor, she had mutations in both copies of her PCSK9 gene, so her body produced none of that protein, and she was...
No, not true. Just a lot less.
Perfectly healthy.
And the protein that was being produced by her body was ineffective at doing what it should do. However, homeostatic mechanisms do take over. Pleiotropy is a thing. Go and look that up, Brad.
What Hobbes had stumbled upon was the clearest natural experiment in cardiovascular medicine.
No, that's not an experiment. That's an observation. Nothing was intervened. Nothing was controlled. See, this is what I mean about Brad Stansfield claiming to know something about science and then claiming that a naturalistic observation, n equals 1, is science and that it's an experiment. No, Bradley, it isn't still.
If you could block PCSK9, you could dramatically lower your LDL cholesterol safely.
No, safely? How do you determine safely? First of all, is there an indication for lowering your LDL? No, there isn't. It's contraindicated, if anything, it seems. And safety needs to be determined in a large number of people over a long period of time, i.e. the absence of a potential problem signal or deleterious outcome signal. Okay, does that exist?
So now the race was on to build a drug that could mimic...
There you go, see? Now the race is on to build a drug because we found a thing that we can intervene in. But is that indicated? Still no, okay?
What this woman's DNA was naturally doing, and Hobbes later described how fast the field moved. So geneticists...
Field moving fast in science, does that fill you with a whole sense of, yes, well, they're clearly doing things carefully and, with safety as their first consideration? I mean, can anybody think of anything that happened fast recently in terms of pharmacological interventions that was obviously safe and effective because of its speed, development at all? Don't know. If anyone can think of anything, don't mention it in the comments.
They took a little while to understand this, but the pharmaceutical company...
No, they still don't understand it, Bradley, and neither do you, okay?
They got it right away. So what does PCSK9 actually do?
Well, go on.
Well, in simple terms, it destroys the receptors on your liver that your liver uses to pull LDL particles out of your blood. So the more PCSK9 that you have, the fewer receptors that survive, and the higher your LDL particles in your blood climbs. So
it's almost like this gene exists precisely in order to hold the LDL level in the blood up when that is appropriate, when those genes are activated by the environment in which those genes are placed in order to maintain the homeostasis, according to 3,800 million years of evolution at least, Bradley. No? Okay.
Block PCSK9, those receptors survive and more cholesterol particles get cleared.
Right. So we block the homeostatic mechanism as designed by such a large amount of evolutionary process because we think we know better. Actually, we know we don't know better. What it is we found a way that we can make some money by telling people that LDL is bad, okay, and we need to keep it down, okay, on the basis of no science whatsoever. Okay. Job's good and cha-ching. Now we can all retire on PCSK9 inhibitors. Awesome. God's sake.
And it was Amgen who designed a drug called evolocumab, which is a protein that latches on to circulating PCSK9 and neutralizes it before it can destroy the LDL receptors. And in early trials, LDL cholesterol, it dropped by 81%.
Yes, well, that's a bad thing, isn't it? Goodness gracious. It's clearly a very effective drug at doing what it does. Among other things, because remember, pleiotropy? No? Okay.
On top of statin therapy. So for patients...
So now we've got a confound to any results you're going to speak about next, where any work has been done, where one intervention is superimposed on top of another, and we don't know what's going on. We cannot tease that out anymore. Ergo, that's not science. That is theology. That is propaganda and smoke and mirrors. I thought you were going to tell us all about the science, Brad. I'm disappointed in you.
Patients who'd struggled with high cholesterol despite maximum statin...
Struggled with high cholesterol? Who's ever struggled with high cholesterol? Maybe people have struggled to get their cholesterol down below a level that some inane, misanthropist, ill-educated buffoon, like Brad Stansfield here, tells them they need to get it below a certain level because science. Maybe they've struggled with doing that. But have they actually struggled because of so-called high cholesterol? The answer, Bradley, is no, they haven't. I'm sure you're going to mention cause and effect at some point, but I'll mention it now. There is no evidence of cause and effect here. Lipids and heart disease. None whatsoever. No science anyway. Only theology, bought and paid for stuff. Consensus opinion statements from a bunch of deeply conflicted, financially conflicted individuals, those who want to make money and don't care if they cause suffering in so doing at all. What's next?
In doses, this was a completely new tool, but lowering a number on a blood test is not the same as preventing heart attacks.
Correct, it is not. And lowering one's LDL has never been shown to have a cause and effect on heart disease outcomes. Ever. Why not? Because we can't do an experiment. Why not? Ethics committees hate experiments on human beings, and it's not practical because how are you going to lock human beings up in a lab for decades? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to sign up to be in that study?
That requires a much bigger, much longer, and much more expensive study.
Right, one that we can't do because of ethics. What we can do is approximate an experimental study with vast problems, vast compromises on the disciplines of the epistemology of cause and effect as required by the disciplines of science, to such a point that it's watered down to such a level that, in fact, we're not doing science, we're doing theology, dressed up as science, aimed at stupid people, like MDs. Right.
So the Fourier trial was that study.
No, it wasn't. It was nonsense. It was ill-disciplined, poorly executed, non-experimental in that the disciplines required for an experiment were not observed, i.e. lock-in, observation, and control. Not to mention the randomization. Dodgy. Sorry about that. Not sorry.
It involved over 27,000 patients with existing heart disease.
Right, so this study cannot be extrapolated to anybody that didn't have existing disease then. Good.
So half of them received evolocumab, and the other half received a placebo, all on top of statin therapy.
Right, so confound, ergo invalid. Nothing to see here. The thing about statins and PCSK9 inhibitors is both those classes of drug serendipitously have a short-term anti-inflammatory effect, which was neither planned nor expected. However, they do have that effect short-term before they do the damage that they do to the body, and then that effect is turned around and reversed and it becomes deeply pro-inflammatory. And indeed, things like rhabdomyolysis is a very, very real likelihood in someone who takes statins, for example, as is something like an 18,500% increase, at least in one study, the incidence of ALS, a universally fatal neurodegenerative disease, for absolutely no established benefit. Draw a line down the page. Pros and cons? No. Okay, what's next?
And the result is a 20% reduction in heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular deaths.
Right, 20% of what? What was the baseline incidence in the control population? How did that compare to a wider population of individuals without existing heart disease and without statin medication intervention? And obviously we're talking there about a relative outcome statistic, which is probably adjusted, i.e. fabricated, because you see scientists, Bradley, for what they actually observed, not some fantasy number they made up on the basis of what they believe they might have observed had they actually been able to exert the controls required of them under the disciplines of the epistemology of science that they could not apply because of the ethical considerations that disallow that from ever happening. Still, I hope this is going up some flagpoles. What's next?
That was a triumph, but it came with...
No, it wasn't. There's no triumph there at all. An adjusted, i.e. fabricated outcome statistic without any indication whatsoever of cause nor effect. Deeply confounded by covariates, collinearities, and other destructors of validity, interpreted entirely from the standpoint of what's good for the bottom right-hand corner, i.e. the bank account of the companies making these drugs, and nothing to do with what's good for people in terms of their actual real outcomes and the objective reality in which we actually find ourselves still. Good. Carry on, Brad. You're doing great work. You're doing the Lord's work, I'm sure.
The caveat that critics were quick to point out.
Good. Caveat from critics. Let's hear it.
Every patient in the 4-year study had already had established heart disease.
There you go. So it cannot be extrapolated to a population that did not. Good.
So skeptics argued that aggressive LDL lowering might only help people who were already in trouble.
Or indeed might help nobody at all, is what anybody sensible is arguing, because that's quite likely too.
Maybe pushing cholesterol that low in healthier patients would cause more harm than good.
Right, or indeed in the people with heart disease, because the cholesterol's there for a reason, Brad, isn't it? It's there to help repair the damage. Okay, what's next?
So the harder question was this. What if you started earlier? Could you prevent the first heart attack?
See, prevent is a cause and effect statement, isn't it? Because prevention is an effect, meaning you'd need to do an experiment. You still can't do that, Brad. Whoopsie daisy, back to square one. While we're going back to square one, you, Bradley, I think need to go back to school and learn about science, because you clearly don't know a damn thing about it. Very, very disappointing indeed.
Not just the second or third. So in a follow-up study called the vacuous CV trial, researchers looked at over 12,000 patients.
Who cares how many they looked at? They failed completely to apply any of the required disciplines of the epistemology of cause and effect inference making in science. Why? Because you can't. Sorry about that. I don't make the rules. I wish I did. Because if I made the rules, Brad, you wouldn't be allowed to spread this poisonous, noxious, ridiculous, misanthropic disinformation to an unexpecting public who think that because you hold an MD degree, you have the first clue of what you're talking about falsely. Sorry about that if I've blown anyone's illusions about MDs, and this one in particular.
Across 33 countries, none of these patients had ever had a heart attack or a stroke.
Goody.
All of them had pre-existing atherosclerosis.
Right. So can we then apply this finding to a bunch of people who did not? No. What's next?
Which basically just means that they had pre-existing blockages in their blood vessels.
No, it doesn't mean that at all. Blockages? No, that's not what atherosclerosis is. Sure, at end stage, there might be a blockage, but not at the early levels.
Or they were high-risk diabetics.
No, risk again. See, Bradley, there are still no studies that inform us on risk of any kind in terms of heart health outcomes in human beings over any period of time as it relates to any intervention of any kind. The science still does not exist and never will, as long as we believe that ethics is an important thing, which I hope we continue to believe, because it is.
With LDL cholesterol levels,
there's still no such thing as LDL cholesterol,
of at least 90 milligrams per deciliter. And after the
You mean estimated levels of that portion of the cholesterol, which is estimated to have been carried by LDL? Yes, okay. That LDL, which is absolutely identical to the other cholesterol carried by other carriers, which is somehow magically deemed to be good cholesterol, whereas LDL cholesterol, which still doesn't exist, is thought to be bad for some reason. Goodness gracious. I'm loving the logic here.
4.6-year follow-up study period.
4.6 whole years of follow-up. Good. How long does it take for atherosclerosis to develop, Brad? I'll give you a hint. It's a great deal longer than 4.6 years. Okay, are we done? I wish you were done. I really do. Perhaps what you should do, Brad, is stop making these ridiculous, ill-educated, misanthropic, pustulous, excremental disinformation videos and go and do what you're paid to do, which is shill for the pharmaceutical companies, privately, to people stupid enough to consult with you as patients.
Roughly twice as long as the 4-year study, the answer came back as yes, there was a 25% reduction in heart attacks, strokes, and
25%, Bradley, of what? What was the baseline? Give us an absolute outcome statistic. Give us one that's not adjusted, by the way, while you're at it. Have another go. Have another crack at this, Bradley. It's quite clear that you are not only scientifically illiterate, you are actually statistically illiterate as well. Stunning.
Cardiovascular disease. So it had taken 20 years, but what Helen Hobbs had found in that aerobics instructor's blood had been validated in the largest scale imaginable.
No, it hadn't been validated in any way whatsoever, in fact, other than to identify one of the effects of a particular SNP which reduced a particular output, which had a particular role in the first place. Not a damn thing has been established as regards cause nor effect, nor utility, nor indication for any drug class of any kind. Still.
Ultra-low LDL was not dangerous. It was...
No, dear, oh dear, oh dear. Perhaps, Bradley, you should look at, I know it's not cause and effect, I know it's associative data, but it's the largest data set available anywhere on the planet. Well, it's not even a data set, it's 2 data sets collected by 2 so-called credible organizations, which indicated that there was a nadir of of all causes of mortality, and heart disease specifically, and cancers, and everything actually. A nadir, meaning a low point on a graph, which had increasing mortality to the left and to the right. The nadir of mortality was at a total cholesterol around 220, meaning likely we're looking at about 130 to 150 on LDL carried cholesterol, the so-called bad cholesterol, which is still identical to all the rest. So that would uncouple any cause and effect inference, wouldn't it? If you had a brain cell that was functioning, Bradley, wouldn't it? What's next?
Was protective, and now we had proof that deliberately lowering it before a heart attack ever happens could prevent that heart attack.
No, so you just made a cause and effect statement there, Brad, which is completely unsupported by science in any way, anywhere on this planet. You've just given us your opinion based on theology, propaganda, and bottom right-hand corners, mostly pharmaceutical companies for whom you shill. Okay, that's not good enough. That's unacceptable. That's malpractice, actually. Brad, you should be struck off.
From ever occurring. But
no, nonsense. Absolute, utter nonsense. Rubbish.
The Vasalis CV study, it included a mix of patients. So some of them had existing atherosclerosis, again, plaque buildup in their blood vessels, but some other patients had just diabetes with no visible disease.
Right. So not comparing apples with apples, this is fruit salad. This is some good science, Brad. I'm glad you're here to tell us about the science.
So the question was whether the benefit held up in that second group.
Benefit, you say? That's a cause and effect statement too. What benefit are you referring to? An adjusted outcome statistic reported as a relative thing to make it look vastly bigger than it really is? Why don't you give us the unadjusted raw outcome statistics, Brad? Other than because you would have to actually read the paper yourself to actually dig that out, because that's not the thing that they actually lean on when they report. You'd actually have to have some statistical competence and literacy to be able to work this out for yourself. That's why you're not doing it. And also because that would destroy your argument in terms of its even apparent validity. That's a shame for you.
So the ones further back in the disease process that hadn't yet developed plaque in their blood vessels, the ones that most doctors wouldn't think to treat aggressively. Well, the question was answered on March 28th, 2026.
Oh, good. I'm glad the question's been answered and the war's over. Remember, this is about how the war's all over.
At the American College of Cardiology conference.
Ah, very credible organization. No.
So researchers, they presented a pre-specified analysis of just the diabetic patients in the Vasalis CV study. So this was a group of just...
So cherry picking. Awesome. Cherry picking's good science. Ask Ansel Keys. He'll tell you how good that science is. It's awesome. When you want to cherry pick, you can find any answer to anything you want. Awesome. Love it.
Over 3,000 people with diabetes, but again, they'd never had a heart attack.
Yes, you said that.
They'd never had a stroke.
Yes, you said that too.
And they had no significant atherosclerosis.
How do you know? According to whom? On what basis?
So half of them received evolocumab and the other half received a placebo. And again, they were followed up for about 4.8 years.
Oh, 4.8 whole years. Awesome. You see why I just bear sometimes, boys and girls? Yes! It's very, very frustrating, isn't it, Professor? Yes, it is, Ted. You go and twiddle the knobs like a good boy. Good boy.
And at the 48-week mark, the LDL cholesterol in the treatment group...
There's still no such thing.
...dropped to 52 milligrams per deciliter.
That's awesome, if you're stupid.
Compared to 110 milligrams per deciliter in the placebo group.
Awesome. So what? I guess you're going to tell us.
And by the 98-week mark, the median was down to 44 milligrams per deciliter.
That's fantastic. Again, if you're stupid.
And the clinical impact was striking. The combination...
The clinical impact is another cause and effect statement, which is still not supported by science anywhere.
Of heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular death was reduced by, and get this, 31%.
Of what? Still. And is that a raw, unadjusted outcome statistic in absolute terms? No, it isn't.
5% in the evolocumab group versus 7.1% in the placebo group.
There you go. Dear, oh dear. The difference, basically, even if it was causal artifact, which it isn't, so close to zero as makes no odds for any given living individual over a 100-year lifespan. Statistically significant because of sample sizing, but not clinically significant at all, in fact, Bradley. Even if it was cause and effect, which it still isn't. Pleiotropy, short-term, several years, of anti-inflammatory effect before the negative effects of those drug classes kick in and reverse that situation, leading, perhaps, it seems, to problems, because it is a contraindicated, unnecessary intervention without the slightest scrap of empirical, experimental, scientific support.
So a hazard ratio of...
No, hazard ratio is a made-up statistic. It's akin to talking about risk. risk hazard. No, there are no studies that can inform any person on their risk or their hazard of anything as that relates to anything at all. There are no experiments. You still can't do experiments on human beings. Stop it, Bradley.
0.69. And then there were the exploratory findings that stopped me in my tracks.
What should stop you in your tracks, Bradley, is common sense and a look at objective reality. Perhaps someone like myself could help you understand your destitution of comprehension of science, statistics, inference making, so-called evidence in health science. I've been a professor of health science for several decades, Bradley. I could really help you understand how destitute, how poor your argumentation is. I'm open to it. Anytime you'd like to do a public-facing live debate-style discussion with myself about the flaws, foibles, and fallacies of the absolutely discredited lipid hypothesis, that'd be awesome. And great viewer numbers too. People would love to see that. Anyway, I suspect that you lack the testicular fortitude to do it.
A signal for reduced all-cause mortality. There was a 24% lower risk of dying.
Oh, false. Wrong. Still no studies that can inform on risk at all, and that's still not an absolute outcome statistic unadjusted.
From any cause. Now, this is a subgroup analysis, and mortality was not a pre-specified outcome, so we can't make definitive claims here. But
well, you seem to be doing so, though, Bradley. Stop it.
A hazard ratio of 0.7.
No, hazard ratio is still a made-up statistic. It's still nonsense. It doesn't even reflect actual observed outcomes at all, because it's adjusted. Remember?
6 for all-cause mortality.
Just give us the outcome statistics, raw.
In a primary prevention population.
No prevention. No, that's a cause and effect statement.
Is a signal that you do need to take seriously.
No, what you need to take seriously is the fact that Brad Stansfield is scientifically illiterate, clearly, obviously, patently, statistically illiterate, clearly, obviously, and patently, and it seems that he has a bit of an ego problem. Quite common in fragile individuals who lack the testicular fortitude to actually front up to an actual scientist to defend their undefendable position. I'm open to it, Brad. If you think you could prevail any day of the week, twice on Sundays, I'm here. So's Ted, aren't you, Ted? Ted? He's busy twiddling the knobs, as he should.
And one detail that matters here.
Yes, details. Yes, they matter. They absolutely do matter, Brad. Details? Isn't that right, Ted? You get your details right down there. Good boy.
Benefit emerged after the first year.
No, not benefit. No, there's no established benefit still.
This makes sense. By stopping plaque from developing in the first place.
Yeah, stopping is a cause and effect statement. Where is the data on the stoppage of this plaque development, Brad? Measured how? By what methodology? Let's talk about that, shall we? During our discussion that you won't have with me.
It's going to be a slow, steady accumulation of protection.
No, that's your opinion. Opinions, Bradley, are just like anal orifice. In that, almost everybody has one, and it's almost certainly full of shit at any given time.
Dr. Nicholas Marston, who is one of the study authors, put it directly.
Yep.
I think the study changes the paradigm.
Right, well, that's an opinion. Remember, we just talked about opinions, didn't we?
We don't have to wait until someone has atherosclerosis to treat them intensively.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be doing that because lipids, Bradley, do not cause atherosclerosis. How do I know? Well, as a retired cardiovascular pathophysiologist who was also an academic teaching and researching for more than 2 decades, I've looked at this quite a bit. I do understand the etiology, development, and molecular basis of this disease process very, very well indeed. That's why I'm so confident to call you out, Sunshine, as nothing more than a trained monkey, frankly, and a paid shill of a deeply misanthropic, deeply compromised organization of folks whose only interest is their bank account, for a discussion with myself to show absolutely how destitute your position really is. Guess I'll be waiting for a while for your response. Maybe I'll hear from your lawyers. That'll be awesome, because actually nothing I've said is incorrect, because I've given my opinions about your competence level, which is none, it seems, as regards science, statistics, inference making, and the etiology of cardiovascular disease. What you have behind you, Brad, is a consensus, a bought and paid for one. Consensus, though, has no place whatever in science. Science is litigated empirically, according to disciplined epistemology. My position is unassailable. Why? Because I've had characters much better than you, much more sophisticated than you, attempt to assail my position over a number of decades. and I have come out squeaky clean. Carry on, though. You're doing a great job.
It challenges the way that most doctors think about cholesterol treatment, waiting for the disease to
Cholesterol does not require treatment.
declare itself before getting too aggressive. This data suggests that waiting costs lives.
No, it doesn't. It suggests no such thing. That's your opinion. Remember about those?
But here's the problem. Evolocumab is an injection. It costs thousands of dollars per year. And even for patients with established heart disease, insurance companies, they often reject the majority of prescriptions.
Quite rightly too.
And for diabetic patients with no prior events, good luck trying to get an approval.
Right, well, you shouldn't get approval for intervening with what your genes are doing, quite rightly. Of course you shouldn't.
So the Versalis CV subgroup analysis, it gives us the science. But for
the science, Brad. Tell us all about the science, son, anytime you like. Remember, I'm open. My email address is on the front page of my YouTube channel, a main one.
For most patients, if they want to achieve these aggressive LDL targets, it means that we should opt
but they shouldn't want to do that.
For using cheap, off-patent drugs that are readily available. So statins...
No, they shouldn't do any such thing. You should not attempt to intervene in the level of cholesterol in your blood or elsewhere in your body by any means. No, you shouldn't do that.
And ezetimibe, for instance. And until very recently, no one had actually tested whether aiming for specific lower numbers made a difference.
Right, and they still haven't, because made a difference is another cause and effect statement, which still isn't supported by any cause and effect data extant anywhere in the literature, anywhere on this planet or any other planet that we're aware of. Good.
But consider this case.
Yes, let's.
53-year-old woman.
Another N equals 1. Absolutely, that'll make your point, Brad. Good. That's some good sciencing again.
Total cholesterol of 141.
Right, well, that's pretty low.
LDL of 67.
That's also pretty low.
Non-smoker, no family history, normal blood pressure. By every guideline, she was at target. But she...
What does that mean, Brad? At target? Do you mean what's thought to be ideal? Is that what you mean? Because what's thought to be ideal isn't necessarily what is.
He had 4 blocked arteries and needed open heart surgery.
Whose case are you arguing for here, Brad? Now, what you're showing us here is somebody who has a disease process, clearly, who does not fit the profile of someone that would fit the profile of the person that they would expect it to fit, were your etiology, the model of the etiology of heart disease that you believe, Bradley, were that correct? It isn't correct, clearly. Here's a case. At least N equals 1. I wonder if there's anybody else in the world who fits the same demographic and yet has developed cardiovascular disease. Well, yes. Yes, there are, Brad. That's absolutely devastating for your lipid hypothesis argument, if you've got any brain at all.
Her friend's reaction afterwards said, I thought you could only get heart disease if you had high cholesterol.
Right, well, there you go, see? That's not true. Ergo, is cholesterol a primary valid target? No. Why not? Because it doesn't cause the disease process in the first place. Okay, what's next?
Her case likely involved other risk factors beyond LDL.
There are no established risk factors. Risk, remember, it's the thing that we need to establish using cause and effect. I believe that looks like a University of Otago diploma there in the background. I'm not sure. Forgive me if you didn't go to Otago Medical School. I think you probably did. They must be proud, Bradley. Very proud indeed. I think they need to reevaluate their program of training, if indeed it was the University of Otago that you went to.
But the point here stands. An LDL of 67 gave her and her doctor false reassurance.
Right, because it's not the causal factor, or anywhere near the causal factor. It's not even proximal to being a causal factor. This is pretty straightforward, isn't it?
And she's not an isolated case.
There you go. Oh, love it, Bradley. Keep talking.
Study of nearly 137,000 heart attack hospitalizations.
Yes. I love it. You're bringing up the study. Good. This is the one that showed a normal distribution curve of LDL, HDL, and triglycerides in these patients who have been hospitalized in the last 24 hours with an established myocardial infarction. Whoopsie! Not dose response, not cause and effect, a normal distribution curve for all 3 factors. Bradley, is this going up any flagpoles?
Found that almost 75% of patients had cholesterol levels within the recommended targets.
That's right. So therefore there's something wrong with the recommended targets, i.e. we shouldn't be recommending any target for cholesterol because it's nothing to do with the etiology of heart disease in a cause and effect way. Excellent.
1 in 5 had an LDL of below 70, that supposed goal. So the question becomes, if the
So what the authors of that paper then falsely asserted was, therefore we need to lower the target still further. Oh my God. Is it possible to be that stupid? Really? Okay, go on, Brad.
The target of 70 isn't low enough.
Ah, there you go, obviously.
What should it be? And that brings us to the second study.
Ah, here we go. This is going to be hilarious. I'm going to laugh my head off. I hope not. I quite like my Hebrews.
That was published at the American College of Cardiology.
Remember how credible they are? Not.
Conference in 2026.
Yes, this is great.
So in some ways, it might be even more important than that Vasalis CV study that we looked at earlier.
Why might it be more important? Again, that sounds like an opinion, Brad.
So the new trial that we're going to look at is called the PAVE study, and it's the first randomized clinical trial to directly compare two specific LDL cholesterol targets head-to-head. So
with what level of control, randomization, genetic identicality of the two subcohorts, observation period under control and observation, conducted according to the correct disciplines of the epistemology required if you want to make a cause and effect inference. Brad, come and answer those questions to me face-to-face. Sunshine, that'd be great.
So one group aimed for below 50.
And frankly, if you've got time to do that, what does that say about your actual task, your actual career, which as we understand it is medical doctor? Medical doctors are too busy to mess around making YouTube videos. Aren't they, Brad? Why do I have time? Because this is my job these days. I'm a retired academic. I no longer work full-time in academia. I can now do my own thing. So are you actually still practicing medicine?
5 milligrams per deciliter versus the standard 70 milligrams per deciliter.
Right.
The study enrolled 3,048 patients.
Right. So statistical power. What were the calculations on power there, Bradley?
With established cardiovascular disease.
At what level? According to whom? On what basis? Measured how?
Across 17 centers in South Korea.
Right. So can we extrapolate that to people who are not South Korean? No.
They were followed up for 3 years.
3 whole years? Good.
In the intensive group.
So followed up means they reported back and had some assessments of some kind done. It doesn't mean they were kept under lock and key and observation. Ergo, we can't make any cause and effect statements about anything that was found in the study whatsoever. Sorry about that. Not sorry.
The median LDL achieved was 56 milligrams per deciliter, and in the standard group, it was 66 milligrams per deciliter. But the results were clear.
Were they? Let's hear it.
The primary outcome of the study, which was a combination of cardiovascular deaths, heart attacks, strokes, revascularization, or hospitalization for...
So fruit salad, that's not an outcome statistic, Bradley. That's a shotgun. None of those things can be established cause and effect on the basis of the level of LDL, so-called cholesterol, so-called, in the blood or elsewhere in the bodies of anybody. Sorry about that.
Unstable angina occurred in 6.6% in the intensive group versus 9.7% in the standard group.
Okay, so what? What other confounds, covariates, and collinearities were at play? Well, we don't know because they weren't kept under lock and key. Are we done?
That's a 33% relative risk reduction. The difference between...
So, and it's not a risk reduction. Because this study reports on outcomes that were observed after the fact in those people at that time under the circumstances that those people were living in a free living situation. Completely inextrapolable to any other population of people at any other place or any other time anywhere in the world. Still, not a risk statement because risk is a cause and effect statement still. Absolute nonsense, Bradley. Complete garbage.
An LDL of 56 compared to an LDL of 66 is just 10 milligrams per deciliter.
Yes, we can count. Well, some of us can count, Bradley.
That translated to a third fewer major events.
No, it didn't. Translated, again, you're implying cause and effect, which cannot be established here. Pleiotropy, remember? It's a thing. Covariates are a thing, confounds are a thing. You can't comment on that because the level of control exerted in the study was inadequate to be able to comment upon that. What you have is a retrospective outcome database of relatively small number of people, 3,000 and something, over a short period of time, as that relates to a person's lifespan, with absolutely no discipline whatsoever. This is theology, dressed up to look like science.
The individual outcomes were even more striking.
Striking is not a particularly scientific terminology, is it? Striking is an opinion, an interpretation. Numbers don't need interpretation. They are what they are. Give us the numbers. The unadjusted, absolute outcome numbers still.
Non-fatal heart attacks were more than halved, with a hazard ratio of...
Again, see, just nonsense. Absolute rubbish from an imbecile. Sorry about that.
0.46. Any revascularization, the hazard ratio was 0.63.
No, there is no such thing as a hazard ratio unless you understand that what you're talking about there is a constructed, fabricated, fantasy outcome statistic, which is adjusted from actual observations made in the objective reality in which we all find ourselves, or most of us find ourselves, Bradley. Okay? No.
So what about safety?
What about that? Good.
There were no signals of harm. There was no excess.
Right. So the evidence of harm was not there, therefore it's safe. There's lack of evidence of lack? No.
Diabetes, no myopathy, no liver toxicity.
In a small group of people, those people, under the circumstances that they lived at that time. Let's have a look at some safety, so-called data or outcome data for negative outcomes on statins, for example, in a vastly larger population, or indeed PKS9 inhibitors. No? Okay.
Dr. Christopher Cannon, who commented on the trial, he put it simply, 55 is our new goal and we need to really embrace that and work hard to get patients to that new goal.
Do you see how that's an opinion? The opinion of a bought and paid for shill and an imbecile, clearly. Why do I say that? Well, because it's absolutely clear that both he and you, Bradley, are totally, completely, utterly, scientifically, and statistically illiterate. There is no indication for that goal extant anywhere in the literature still.
All of this aligns with the low target that I've personally aimed for.
Right, so your opinion.
Over the past few years, and I based that on a study called the PISA study.
Oh, good.
Imaged the arteries of 4,184 apparently healthy, middle-aged adults with no cardiovascular disease. What they found in a subgroup analysis of those with no conventional cardiovascular risk factors.
No, there's still no such thing as risk factors.
So no high blood pressure, no obesity, no insulin resistance, etc.
Insulin resistance is a construct, Bradley. Please give me the name of a company from whom I can order and purchase today for delivery to my fine practice an insulin resistance meter that I can apply to a patient's blood, for example, that will read out their insulin resistance for me anytime you like. No? Okay.
Was striking. Nearly half.
Striking, once again, there's that term. No, Brad.
Had already developed plaque in their blood vessels. And when they looked at the relation.
How much did they have, Brad?
Between LDL cholesterol levels.
No, LDL cholesterol still doesn't exist. It's still an estimated and not measured aspect of a lab report on the lipid profile in a person's blood.
And plaque burden. The data.
Plaque burden, yes. Measured how? You're going to laugh your heads off when you see this.
Showed a clear linear pattern.
No, it didn't. Not at all. Absolute garbage. That's your opinion again, Brad. See, if there was a clear linear pattern, you would not need to say this is a clear linear pattern because the outcome statistics as presented by these authors would establish that fact empirically. It doesn't. Your opinion to say that that's what it shows makes no difference to the fact that it does not show that.
The chart from the study is worth seeing. So
yes, it is, absolutely, and I can't wait.
The plaque built up even if LDL cholesterol.
Okay, right. So what is being measured here? The plaque buildup. There is no measurement of the actual area plaquing being measured here at all. This shows the number of sites at which plaque was present of any degree of development or size. Are we done? No, we're not, because there's a lot more fun to be had here yet. Still.
Cholesterol was at 60 and it climbed to 64% in those with LDL.
Okay, so at the bottom there where he says at 60 there was like disease, what you need to read there when you actually read this paper, Brad, which it seems you maybe haven't, is you need to see like where it says 60 there, how many of the people that were assessed here does that represent? How many of those people had an LDL level at 60 or below? 2. N equals 2. Bradley. Okay? Dear, oh dear.
Of between 150 to 160. And critically, the authors note that plaque buildup appears to only develop at an LDL 3.
Yeah, but these authors did not measure plaque buildup, Bradley. They measured the number of sites where plaquing was present at any level of development of any size. They did not measure the plaque burden at all. And they made claims about lower is better on the basis of 2 individuals. 2. You absolute buffoon, Bradley. Your credibility is in the toilet here, son. You want to be taken seriously as a scientific commentator? My word.
Threshold of approximately 50 to 60 milligrams per deciliter, the very range that the new high-risk guidelines are
No, that's an opinion high risk still.
now targeting. And the free health roadmap tool that I've created takes into account...
So your opinion on top of their opinion is now so-called valid because you share their opinion, which of course the generation of your income requires you to do. Doesn't it, Brad?
This PISA data, and you can find a link in the pinned comment to try it out.
Yeah, no, we won't be trying out anything you've got to say, Sunshine.
Now, I should note some important limitations.
Yes, you really should have beforehand. And then, having understood what they are, you should have actually kept your ignorant, arrogant, ill-educated mouth shut on this topic, Bradley. Because it's quite clear, as I've said more than once, you are absolutely scientifically and statistically illiterate. And the so-called medicinal evidence that you're relying on for your opinion would require a person who is competent to hold such an opinion to not be scientifically and statistically illiterate. Bradley. Sorry about that. Not sorry.
The PAVE study that compared the older target of 70 with the more aggressive target of 55 was conducted entirely in South Korea.
That's right, it was.
So ideally, we'd want to see this replicated in other populations.
No, we wouldn't want to see it replicated in other populations because, you see, Bradley, the methodology was entirely unable to comment upon cause nor effect. By the very basis of its design, sadly, still, making that any better is out with the capacity of scientists to actually achieve because of ethics, practicalities, finance, etc. still.
And only 60.8% of patients in the intensive arm actually achieved the target of below 55 at the 3-year mark.
Right, so we're cherry picking. Good.
But the implication here is still powerful.
No, it isn't, Brad. That's still your opinion. It's still absolutely ridiculous, laughable to its core, and it points squarely to your arrogance problem.
Every point of LDL cholesterol matters.
No, it doesn't. There is no evidence to support that claim at all.
And the old target of 70 can leave significant benefits on the table.
There are no benefits to be had by artificially lowering any of the lipids in your bloodstream whatsoever still.
And the PISA study tells us the same thing.
No, it doesn't. Your opinion is it does that, but your opinion is not based on competence.
And here's the part of the story that really frustrates me as a doctor.
Right, here we go.
So the drug that the PAVE study used to help patients get from 66 milligrams per deciliter down to 56 milligrams per deciliter.
Why would they do that, though? You haven't provided us with a single scrap of inference that's remotely valid that would lead us to believe that that's a good idea. It simply isn't.
It wasn't some cutting-edge injectable that costs thousands of dollars a year. Instead, the drug is called ezetimibe, and ezetimibe is cheap, it's off-patent, and it works by basically telling your gut to not absorb as much cholesterol. It's generic, it costs almost nothing, and as of the most
and it achieves the same
recent data, only 6% of patients with established cardiovascular disease are taking it. 6%. Karen Aspey, who's a cardiologist at Brown University, called the PAVE study a real-world approach for how clinicians...
So some more opinions from people who really ought to keep their mouths shut about this area, because it's quite clear if you have an opinion in support of these dangerous, contraindicated pharmaceutical interventions to our genetic function, our homeostatic mechanism, then you are an imbecile. Plain and simple. Sue me.
Should be titrating to a lower target using ezetimibe.
Good luck, though, because suing somebody who doesn't necessarily have the resources to pay out any claims that might be found against them is going to be, a pretty expensive thing for you to do.
Which many are not doing. 2/3 of heart disease patients aren't at the LDL cholesterol target, despite using statins.
Well, number one, the target is contraindicated. Number two, so are the statins. Number three, you're still an imbecile.
So there's a cheap, generic pill that could help most of them get there, but almost nobody is...
Why would you want to get to a target that means nothing and achieves nothing?
...prescribing it. So for my patients, we have an open discussion about aiming...
Remember the patients, Brad? They're the people you should probably be talking to. People who are stupid enough to be your patients. Why do you have time, if you're still practicing physician of any level of repute, why are you making YouTube videos? Why don't you have better things to do, like talk to your patients, I wonder?
For the more aggressive 55 target rather than 70. And personally, I take a statin as well as ezetimibe.
Oh, then you really are an imbecile. No two ways about it. You will pay the price for that, sunshine. One way or another at some point. Mark my words. You silly, arrogant young man. Wind your neck in.
And for the group of patients who can't reach their target levels, despite using statins and ezetimibe, PCSK9 inhibitors, they do remain an option, though at the moment, cost is still a barrier, but there's reason for optimism here too. A new oral PCSK9 inhibitor recently showed a 58% LDL reduction in a phase 3 trial.
So what? That's contraindicated still.
So when it's approved, it could remove the injection barrier entirely. And the earlier you start lowering your LDL cholesterol levels, the more benefit you'll get.
Nonsense. Absolute garbage. Unsupported by any empirical evidence of any kind in the science anywhere on this planet, Bradley. Complete, utter, misanthropic, contraindicated, criminally incompetent garbage.
Now, there are some other dietary components that do have effectiveness in lowering LDL cholesterol.
So what, still? You still don't want to do that.
So
if you want to do it, take some Oreo cookies. Hey, Nick Norwitz, another imbecile.
Soluble fiber is one of them, and that's why I included psyllium husk, a well-studied...
Oh, wow! Destroy your gut function in order to help reduce something that you shouldn't reduce for no gain of any kind. That's established anywhere in empirical science, anywhere on the planet. Good, good. By the way, Bradley, in your medical training, exactly how much time was spent on nutrition in your medical training? Probably none at all, maybe up to 8 hours if you're lucky in a whole program of training. And indeed, if you did even get 8 hours, what you would have been told was complete misinformation put together by the Dietetics Association, who are also criminally incompetent. Perhaps you could sue me too. Once again, you won't get a cent. I don't own anything. I'm not that silly.
Source of soluble fiber with cholesterol-lowering effects and microvitamin plus powder. But just because I take a supplement does not in any way mean that you should as well.
That's correct, it does not. Good. That's the first thing you've said that was remotely sensible all day, or indeed that I've ever heard from you at all, Bradley.
Now, coming back to that woman in Dallas, the aerobics instructor with an LDL of 14.
Yes, remember her?
And Helen Hobbs, who looked at her blood and saw something that most scientists would have dismissed. It launched a 20-year chain of discoveries.
Yep. How is she, by the way, that woman? Does anybody know?
The gene, the drug, the trials, and now for the first time, head-to-head evidence for that exact number to aim for.
No evidence whatsoever still, Bradley, just your opinion. Just your arrogant, ignorant, illiterate opinion, still.
Science is clear, lower is better.
No, it isn't, Bradley. What's clear is that you have no idea what science even is. What you have just said is absolutely gobsmackingly ridiculous, and you really ought to be struck off.
Earlier, the better, and the target that your doctor was likely trained on is probably too high. The only question
False.
left is whether we should act on it.
No, we should not. Absolutely not. That's my opinion. But it's a pretty well-educated opinion, to be fair, Bradley, having been a cardiovascular pathophysiologist for a very, very long time. Anyway.
Something that unfortunately has muddied the waters here is a controversy over whether there's an important link between our cholesterol levels and saturated fat in our diet.
Well, there is a link. Absolutely. There's no question there's a link. You can't carry saturated fat in your blood without LDL. LDL is produced when it's needed to do that job. What's your point?
So we'll have a look at what's driving that controversy and what the data actually says.
Oh, you don't know what the data says, Brad. You are statistically and scientifically illiterate. I've shown that today and previously in several other videos I've done about you, where I also challenged you outright to come and speak to me face-to-face, live on camera about this. And I'm still waiting for a response of any kind. I wonder why I don't get one.
In this next video here.
No, we won't be watching that. Right. The more you practice what? I don't know. Anyway, there it is. There it is. Brad Stansfield, imbecile, scientifically illiterate buffoon, clown, misanthropist. Join me next time when someone else will be wrong on interwebs, because it doesn't look like stopping anytime soon, does it? See you then. Ciao, ciao.